Hello. So, what do you think about this topic? You know, it's really hard to maintain your own self-confidence when you are just working on your own. And I think it's pretty natural for us all to want to seek validation from outside. But what I'm going to be talking about today is why this is possibly not a good idea, and in fact may be to your own detriment. Hi, I'm Kylie Ansett. I am the Author Whisperer, and I help indie authors, that's you, get your book out of your head and into the world and selling, because I know you want to make $1 and a difference. So that's what we're here to do today. We're here to talk about some of the art and skill and methodology and tips and tricks and strategies of authoring, of writing a non-fiction book. So this particular one, which is the the feedback loop of insanity, I have called it before. It's basically where, because as authors we really do work on our own. It's a very these are my books behind me, just by the way. I had to rearrange everything yesterday, so it's all ended up on this shelf here. So as authors, we work on our own. Like, writing is a very solitary experience, and it's so easy to flip into self-doubt. Now, the reason this happens is because we're human as fuck, and that's what we do. We question ourselves, but the kind of impetus or the desire to seek validation in the form of feedback from others has a huge potential to backfire. So let me explain what I mean. Okay, so basically it's one of those things where you're sitting there, you're all on your own, you're doing your writing, you're deep in your work, and then you sort of think, oh, I don't know, does this sound right, or is this the right word, or could I use a better term, or does this make sense, or whatever little story is going on in your head. And then you think, I can't decide myself. You doubt yourself. In that moment, you doubt yourself. What happens? There's a little gap. When you ask that question, when you have a doubt or a question, or you're not sure, there's a gap that happens. There's a moment in time where you have the answer, and usually what you do is you just bulldoze over that moment, and then you keep asking the question and you ignore that answer. That was the gut feeling, that was that intuition, that was your inner voice giving you the answer. And you go, oh, I'm not sure. And so you ask it again, and you push it down, and you ask it again, and you get yourself all caught up in knots. And then you want to go outside yourself into, the rest of the world to see what others think. Now, the reason this backfires almost all the time is because this is your book. This is your divine download. This is the message from your heart. And when you start filtering it through other people whose message it is not, who don't have a deep, intimate understanding of it, how could they? And suddenly they're weighing in with their 5 cents, or their 2 cents, they're 10 cents. They're weighing in, they're saying, oh, maybe this or maybe that. Okay, now you're even more confused. It's not like you're going to ask people and you'll get like a 100% consensus. That is not going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that, well, actually I am. Okay, I was going to say I'm not saying you have all the answers, but you know what? You do have all the answers. And learning to trust yourself, and that means learning to listen to that inner voice is where it begins. It's where you learn to hear. It's where you learn to hear those answers. And the more you listen to that inner voice of wisdom, the louder it will be and the easier it will be to catch. At first, especially because you have probably ignored this inner voice for like your whole life, it's very quiet and it's very quick, and you blink and you miss it, and that's why you doubt it. That's why when you do catch a glimpse of it, it's so subtle and it's so nebulous that you think, is that it? Was that, like, is that my inner voice? Is that the right answer? So you second guess, and then you third guess, and then you fourth guess, and before you know it, you've got no idea where you are or what the real answer is. So here's the thing. It's so important to start to learn to catch and listen to that inner voice and to recognize it, so that you are creating something that is from your heart, and you're not going outside yourself to try and get the answers to all these questions that you have. Now, let's put this in a different way, because when it comes to the end of your book and you have put a bow around it and you've gone, that's it, that's me, done. Now, at that point, it's a different kind of feedback that you're looking for, and it's certainly good to pick and choose who you ask that feedback of. Not just all and sundry, not just splash it up on Facebook and kind of hope that something hits the wall. That's not the kind of feedback that's going to be either useful or productive for you to create a book that's going to be cohesive. But especially in the beginning parts of writing your book, when it's still an embryo, when it's still in its creative space, it's so important to hold on to your own inner message. This is a message from your heart, and if you don't start listening to and paying attention to that and giving respect to that and showing value to that message, then what will happen is it will become filtered, it will become watered down, and it will lose its impact. And like, isn't that the reason that you're writing the book in the first place? So it is super important to learn to listen to that inner voice. It is super important to learn to trust that inner voice, and to know that, you know what, even if it is wrong, like it's a message from you. Well, actually, no, it's never wrong. It's more, even if other people disagree with it, that's more the point. Even if other people have a differing opinion, you've got to know that they aren't then necessarily the ones that this message is for. So learn to trust yourself, learn to listen to that voice. And you know how it starts? It starts just by doing it, just by practice, by catching it. It's that blink and you miss it instinct. It's almost a physical sensation when you get that inner voice. It's a physical sensation that you feel in yourself. So start learning to recognize that, and the more you do it, I promise you, the more obvious it will become, the more tangible it will become, and then you start really trusting that this has the right answers for you. So that is my message for you today. Now, it's super important to imply this at all stages throughout your book, but probably the most important stage is the beginning, is the first draft, that kind of outline, and when you're just getting it from, you know, a vague idea in your head into something that's going to become a tangible book, right through to, I guess, when you're in the self-editing, and this is often when people will do it, when they're in that self-editing, then they're starting to get a lot of second and third guessing. So super, super important to apply this rule all the way through that process. Now, the one exception would be if you are working closely with someone, hello, and they are supporting you in your journey and they are your book coach, okay? Now this would be a different thing, because your book coach would understand the objective of your book. They would understand who your ideal reader is and what the benefit is going to be to the ideal reader. And they also understand where you're coming from. And if you have a book coach who is intuitively tuned in, then they're able to translate some of those missed messages. And in fact, what I do with my clients is I encourage them, I actually give them exercises and practices to be able to catch those moments and start to learn to listen to themselves. And in fact, I am never there to tell them, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. I think that just undermines the author. It takes away their power, and that is the opposite of what I want to do. That's the opposite of what my whole reason for encouraging people to self-publish is, to empower them, is to know that they have the control. They don't need to kind of ask for permission. They don't need to have someone hold their hand. They can do it all themselves. So my goal as a coach is to empower people to step into that. And sometimes that does mean helping them recognize what that inner voice is sounding like and catch it when it's still very quiet, so that it starts to become much, much more powerful and much more noticeable. And then, they're off and running. So that is my message to you today. I hope this helped you, and I hope this gives you some encouragement and empowers you. That's what I want it to do, because I want you to be able to write like nobody's watching and then hit publish. All right, have a great day. Bye.